Welcome back everybody to another pomade review, and today we'll be taking a look at another lab-made, well, formerly home-brewed oil-based pomade. And our pomade for today is High Life Voodoo Brew 1, currently operated and owned by Dax. I have some buildup of this stuff left over my hair right now, but I'll talk more about the buildup later on. But this stuff right over here in the early 2010s, it used to be owned, operated, and brewed by this guy named Adam, but he later sold the rights of all the High Life pomades, including the Voodoo Brew pomades, to the Dax pomade company, and currently all the contemporary current iterations of the High Life pomades are manufactured by Dax. There are two Voodoo Brews, but obviously this Voodoo Brew number 1, so there's some numbering over here, and Voodoo Brew 2 is actually a heavier and lower shine version of this one right here. So it comes in this 3.5 ounce gold tin, gold colored tin, obviously not made of gold. And the directions of use are underneath the label over here. It's one of those flappy labels where you can just read the ingredients and the directions of use. It comes in English and Spanish right here. So it says here that it's a heavy hold pomade for all hair types, and it's tinted to a darker tone to maximize naturally darker hair tones and to avoid the appearance of flakes. It's designed to be perfect for pompadours, jelly rolls, and true classic hairstyles, and obviously does not wash out, being an oil-based pomade. Easy molding ability for maximum sculpting and shaping performance. I'm reading out the what it's designed for, what exactly it's for, so we can, in this review, obviously we'll be comparing it to what exactly they have in mind for this product. You would find the Voodoo Brew logo again over here on the side, and if you open it up, you would find a purple colored pomade. Well, it's really darker in real light, but somehow the lighting just makes it look more purple than it really should be, but it's more of a darker purple actually. The scent on it is a coconut scent, and it's quite a strong one. This actually used to belong to the last guy who cut my hair, Brom, who is also known as Manir Fusi. And my last haircut's basically his final exam. We talked about that in my barber station exam review, and we exchanged some pomades right before, an hour before he cut my hair. And this is one of the pomades he gave me because he says the pomade is all right in its performance, but he just doesn't enjoy the scent at all. It's a little too strong for him, and he just doesn't really like the scent. But it is quite a strong scent. It's not really for everyone. Some say that it's not the strongest thing ever, but you will definitely sense it for the rest of the day. But I do agree with Brom that it's pretty strong, but I wouldn't say it's overpowering. I've experienced worse. So right now you would see that despite being heavy, you can see that it's a little shiny. You can tell there's a fair amount of grease in there, and scooping it out is actually not too bad. It has sort of like a more creamy, definitely you can feel the petroleum jelly kind of feel in there. It's more of a slick, sticky feeling. And if you rub it in your hands, you break it down. It doesn't break down too bad either. It doesn't require too much pressure. It's not as waxy as I actually expected. There's a fair amount of oiliness in here, so I can really tell it's going to be a slick product right off the bat. Applying it is also kind of, there's a little bit of tug if you apply too much in one scoop, but if you apply just a fair dime-sized amount, or less, just like a normal finger scoop size, nothing too crazy, then it actually doesn't feel too bad in your hair as long as it's damp as well. It doesn't feel like a very waxy, tuggy pomade unless you actually put a gigantic finger scoop. You can definitely feel a bit of the tug, but right now it's more of like a tacky kind of resistance. Kind of a sticky feel. Second scoop. I won't use too much today because I already have some buildup left over. So after this scoop right here, that'll be enough pomade in the hair for today. So you can tell slickness, as I said, is definitely a given. Well, I'm on build-up right now, but to be fair, even without build-up, it's a pretty slick product. And you can already tell that the shine is pretty good for a heavy. I mean, it's not really like those goon grease type of heavies where it's advertised to have a high shine, but the shine is more or less somewhere between. It's not a low shine, but I wouldn't say it's a true medium either. It's just a notch below a medium shine. It's a medium shine at best, depending on how much you use, but it's somewhere between just a notch below a true medium shine. I would say that it's sort of a notch or two below Lockhart's medium in its shine. Now, looking back, you would definitely feel some resistance in there. You feel a bit of the waxiness, but it's less waxy of a resistance than you would expect. But it's a very sticky type of resistance. It's a slick kind of resistance, you can tell. There's a fair ratio of grease and wax, but it's one of those heavies where the waxiness in it is not too overpowering. They can still pretty much find an adequate amount of control without your hair just feeling a little too dry with too much of the wax in there. You can definitely feel that there is at least a slick control to be able to sculpt a pretty good shape pompadour, nothing too much like a flat wall shape. Forming the part right now. There we go. Now, working with it on build-up. First, I want to talk about the sensation of build-up. The build-up sensation itself is actually a little cleaner than I expected. Obviously, not the cleanest thing in the world, but I was quite surprised. I thought it would be just overall super greasy. It's one of those greasier heavies with a good ratio of grease. For a heavy, like I said, I keep on saying the wax content does not overpower the whole formula. So I thought it would feel very, very oily in its buildup, but it's actually a little cleaner than I expected. Even for a lab-made pomade, it's still kind of clean in its buildup, but obviously there's a bit of that greasy feeling, so it's not the cleanest thing in the world. You would expect a bit of a dirty buildup, but I wouldn't call it so much of a gross buildup. You'd still feel that stickiness, a bit of that greasiness, but it's not super apparent. It doesn't feel very, very chunky either, like most typical heavy hold pomades. Just a bit of greasiness and some waxiness, but not a very chunky buildup. But you would still feel a very, very nice control as you style in buildup. I would say working on buildup is actually styling with it on buildup is a pleasure actually to work with. You just saw that one strand flat. That's because my hair is just slightly damp right now. As you can tell, I'm pretty much almost done with my pomp. I'm just forming the ducktail. But styling a pompadour with this one is really quick actually, in my opinion. And I can always manage to get a really good shape, good roundness, amazing height. And my pompadour always looks good with this one. I can get it very forward actually. Now the hole in this one is advertised to be a heavy, but I'd say the hole in this one, it ranges between a firm, which is obviously between a medium and a heavy. It ranges between a firm and a true heavy. It's basically a true heavy at best, but it's not like an extra heavy. The hold overall is, it does what it's supposed to do. It's a pretty good hold, but throughout the course of the day when it's just really hot, especially it's summer nowadays, there was a loss in height to my pompadour, but it's not like you would lose structure. The slick structure, the pompadour shape is still maintained, but it's just that some of the height will be lost, but there's still no flopping whatsoever, which is the most important thing because at least the pomp is still there. And my hair still remained really slick throughout the rest of the day. The shine is maintained as well. It goes down by a notch at most, depending on how much you use. If you use less, then you would expect the shine to go down by just a notch, just a little bit. But the shine pretty much is maintained. And for a DAX product, my issue is that sometimes the shine just doesn't maintain throughout the whole day. You can tend to notice it decreasing, but this one, the shine is pretty consistent. And there's a fair amount of wetness to the shine, sort of like a nice, a bit of that old school greasy shine, but it's not an in-your-face wet greasy shine. Well, it just makes your hair look super, super slick. You would notice a bit of that slightly. There's a very slight apparent waxy sheen, the whiteness to it, the whiteness of a waxy type of sheen. But at the same time, you'd also notice a fair amount of wetness. It's a good amount of shine that's not too, I wouldn't say it's subtle. It's obviously not subtle. You can definitely see a medium shine, but at the same time, it's not just full on, very, very wet like the blue DAX the short need. But I'll just stop rambling and show my Pompadour right now. It looks really amazing. So you can tell it just really looks nice and dark hair, good amount of shine and slickness as well. Great shape, you can see how forward and round my Pompadour is. And because the pomade is so dark, I also need to talk about, I said earlier, it looks really nice and dark hair, and that's what it's advertised for. So obviously this pomade is made for people with darker hair types. So if you're blonde or you have a lighter hair color, it might have the tendency to stain your hair with the dark tint that it has. So I wouldn't really recommend this one for lighter hair people, but it just gives a really nice looking finish, a nice looking shine finish to those with really dark hair like mine. But overall, this is a decent pomade. I do like it, and it actually performs pretty well, exactly what it's supposed to, except that it sometimes, yeah, the scent is a little too overpowering for some. But otherwise, the best part about this one, in my opinion, are the build-up and the nice styling control. I always style my Pompadour really quick with this, and I never have a bad hair day, actually. Always a really good Pompadour shape maintained. Really great at sculpting this Pompadour round shape, and it's even better on build-up as well. The control is great to begin with, but in build-up, the control from all the slickness is even more apparent, and you would style even quicker. A really quick Pompadour on build-up. Also a nice, a fair amount of shine without it being too low, and at the same time it doesn't scream out grease in your hair. I mean, people would know you're using a shiny product, but it's not like very straight up super greasy. And the hold on it, for some of you with thicker hair, it might be a little bit of an issue on much hotter days because it would end up feeling a little greasy when it melted a little, and some hold would definitely be lost. But for me, like I said earlier, the Pompadour structure is still maintained and there's no flopping, but the height is just slightly lost. And when I recomb it during really hot days, it feels slightly less waxy, but I never really do have an issue with flopping whatsoever. But for those of you with thicker hair, and if it's super hot out there, you might want to think about using the Voodoo Brew too. But so far in my hair type, Voodoo Brew 1 works fine even on hotter days. So with that being said, this is actually, I wouldn't say there's anything groundbreaking about this pomade, but it does have a pretty good shine for something that's advertised as heavy, even though shine is not its main selling point, and it looks really nice in dark hair. This is a pomade with a pretty good performance, in my opinion. It does what exactly it's designed to do, but there's nothing very groundbreaking about it. But as long as it works, then it's fine. If you enjoyed this review and learned quite a lot from it, please leave a like. Subscribe to this channel, click on the bell icon so you don't miss a single upload of the Squinty Show, and I'll see you next time on the Squinty Show.